We're in Medlow Bath, about 5 air miles from where Gary Tweedle disappeared in the Blue Mountains of Australia. And this is the location where Elizabeth O'Prey disappeared March of this year, 2016. 77-year-old lady lived in the community, knew the community like the back of her hand, hiked every day and went out. And we're here at the Rural Fire Service headquarters. And the crew here has been extraordinarily nice. They can't go on camera and talk, but they did talk to us privately. And they discussed Miss O'Prey. They knew her, and she lived alone. Her daughter lived nearby. The family's destroyed about this. And on that one day where she went out on a hike, she walked the rural railroad tracks along a dirt road that parallels it. And as she walked along, she turned left on a street called Grand Canyon Road. That's where she was last seen. She did this almost daily. And in fact, her hikes sometimes were as much as 10 miles round trip. Lengthy. And we asked the fire people how many people participated in the search. And they said that there were over 200 at times, including helicopters with FLIR, canines, many police, state police, and rural fire rescue teams. And when we asked them what happened, they were dumbfounded. They don't know. But what we're going to do is we're going to take you down the path where she was last seen, kind of the area around Medlow Bath. It's a rural community, not a lot of people, very quiet, very nice area, no crime. But Medlow Bath, New South Wales, 5 miles from Gary Tweedle. So we're in Medlow Bath. We just left the fire brigade office. Kind of give you a feeling for the city. The railroad tracks are on the right side here. Very nice housing is on the left. And we're back in back with Patrick here, who kind of knows the area, knows what happened. We're coming up on Grand Canyon Road here. And lots of times Elizabeth would sometimes go right. This time she went left towards the airfield. And the fire captain said that she actually knew the caretaker of the airfield. And he had crashed his plane weeks prior. And some people thought maybe she went out to look for him, which is one of those things that I've talked about before in my books, where there's an aerial event in conjunction with a missing person. Strange. This is the road that they started their search on, and as the fire captain stated, there was a possibility that they had heard somebody calling for help while they were out. Now, when I gave a talk in Ride earlier in this trip, the people stated, there was a search and rescue person that participated in this event, stated that he had heard a person calling for help twice, and they thought that they had the location identified, and they went in and they looked, and as the fire captain stated, you know, they brought helicopters with FLIR in, they couldn't find anything. Very frustrating. We were told today that Ms. O'Prey did not have dementia, did not have early forms of dementia, and in fact was very spry and active and hiking every day. So now we're heading out towards Katoomba Airfield, a location that many people don't know about, but it is the location where prior to her disappearance, another plane disappeared while it was on approach, and that was the man that took care of the airfield and kind of knew it like the back of his hand. So this road, pretty good dirt gravel road. It goes for a few miles out here. There's homes, rural location. This would have been the road that she was walking, they believe, when she disappeared. And we're going to go out towards an area called Peckman's Plateau, where they actually concentrated their search for Elizabeth. So we've driven down Grand Canyon Road. The asphalt turned to gravel, is now turning to dirt, and we're still en route towards Katoomba Airport, where the crash occurred and where Elizabeth was allegedly going to search for her missing friend. few nights earlier, I gave a talk in a city in West Ryde, in a suburb of Sydney. And in that was one of the search and rescue people that participated in this event. And they stated that they had heard what they believe her call for help 2 times during that search. And in fact, the fire captain said the same thing. What's amazing is that they found nothing. They couldn't find her, they didn't find her clothes, they didn't find her cell phone. So what happened to her? And there was also a point where Elizabeth was on her cell phone talking to authorities saying that she was missing.
And was in a clearing, apparently.
Apparently. And they couldn't pinpoint where she was at then. And then they supposedly heard a scream, too. So this is when emergency workers were on scene. They're looking. They see nothing. So we're going to take you to a location soon here where you can have this vast sighting of the valley below, where the thought of searching and trying to find somebody would be almost insane. But again, this is the airfield. They ended up finding the pilot on his approach weeks later, but
it's a very remote airfield behind us, Dave. Private pilots sometimes use it. I've never seen a plane landing or taking off here. And today and yesterday, we saw nobody around, no traffic at all. It's a long dirt strip, probably good for an emergency field. Very remote though. Nobody up here, even the locals don't only vaguely know there's an airfield here.
So what I'm going to do is put a square around this case and say, 3 months ago the lady disappeared. It's a Sunday. There's nobody here. Nobody's driven down the road. We just came from the fire brigade and they were doing some other event. Nobody's searching. The event's over in everyone's mind. And even the fire brigade person said that the lady, Miss O'Prea's family's devastated by it. So we'll take you to another location.
Mrs. O'Prea would have had a long walk to get out here. And then from here, it's a cliff, and there is a very rough trail going down. And what we're seeing now is the car, well, if you can call it a car park or a parking lot. And behind the camera, you'll see, I'll put the nose of the car pointing at one of the beautiful views. And it's a vast wilderness, and there's not a soul here.
So we're at Point Pilcher here. This is the general area where Elizabeth is thought to have disappeared. If you look at that valley down below, there's a distinct possibility you would hear a voice calling from the valley, but it would be very difficult to understand the exact location it was calling out from. Now from this point, there's a lot of water. You can actually see some flow down below. But the thought that you would actually find anybody, you could have 10,000 searchers, and there's a good chance you're not going to see anybody down there. For people that have read my books and listened to various interviews I've done, there's a story about a lady named Geraldine Largay who disappeared in Maine off the Appalachian Trail. Geraldine was a nurse, and the thought was she would never leave the trail. She would always stay on it. Months, years later, they find her off the trail in a Naval Survival School's property where it's plastered all the way around, no entry. And many of you have written to me and said, that doesn't make any sense. Geraldine would never go in there. Geraldine wouldn't leave the trail. As we're talking right here, it reminds me of Geraldine's story, because here we have a lady who walked many miles every day, was in phenomenal shape. We were clarified by the search teams that she didn't have any pre-dementia. She was in good shape, good sound mind, and whoosh, she's gone.
If she only went half a mile and a half from this road that we've just filmed, she should be easily found. If she came right to the very end, and this is several miles down this road, if she descended this trail behind us into this valley, then it becomes a different matter altogether.